What is my motive? What am I trying to accomplish? What do I hope is my desired outcome by investing in stock? Am I trying to hit a home run? Am I trying to replace lost savings that because I didn't spend my 40s and 50s piling away a bunch of money in my highest earning years, now all of a sudden I'm playing catch up? Did you know that I have 3 really complicated relationships in my life?
With me, myself, and I?
Close. My relationship with money, my relationship with people, and my relationship with self. And they're all connected together because when my relationship with money got out of whack, it totally had an impact on those other relationships. That, my friend, is what we call having financial sobriety.
So who are you?
I'm Matthew Grishman. Who are you?
Jim Gebhardt.
And we're a couple of financial advisors trying to have an untraditional conversation about our favorite topic, money.
Let's go. So what are you grateful for today?
Baseball.
Baseball.
Baseball. I am grateful
In baseball,
for baseball.
you play in a park.
Is that a George Carlin reference?
Oh, it's the best. That is one of the
when
best
he,
comedy things about. In football, you play on a gridiron.
In
baseball, you go home. I get to go home. Oh, my
right.
God. It is so good.
Now I remember
God
that.
bless him.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not only grateful for baseball, I'm grateful for George Carlin, who brings a lot of levity to baseball. It's baseball season, and I'm just really grateful that it's back.
Did it go away?
It does. It goes away for almost 6 whole months. I mean, the sport doesn't go away, just playing
Takes a
the
little
actual
snoozer.
game.
Right.
Yeah, well,
The off season.
some would say the off season is when all the actions happen,
Oh, well, you know it is.
right?
You
But
ever watch a duck swim?
I know. Have I ever watched a duck swim? I've
Yeah.
seen a duck play hockey.
When a duck is swimming, they're just kind of go.
Oh, right, on top of the
But
water.
what's going on underneath the
Right,
water is
right.
kookaloo.
That's the off season of baseball.
All of them.
Yes. Very grateful for baseball. Grateful that spring is here. And grateful you made it up safe and sound to join me here in studio today.
Thank
that was
you.
Quite the feat from what I understand.
I can tell you it's not spring in Boston and it's not spring in Chicago. Having been in both of those fine cities, which I love dearly in this very month, I can tell you spring has not sprung.
Little delayed.
Ooh.
Kind of like
Reminder 704 why I moved to the West Coast.
football weather at Fenway.
They would have canceled whatever the game was in Fenway. 36 raining sideways. Oh, yeah, miserable.
Speaking of miserable, what are you grateful for today?
You know what? I am grateful for the last probably 5-6 days of just living life. My weekend, what you and I would refer to as free days, was extraordinary. Just doing the things I love to do with the people I love to do them in the most amazing places. And then coming off of a couple of days at the mothership in Chicago of Strategic Coach, I am freshly inoculated and indoctrinated, say that 5 times fast, in all things entrepreneur.
Nice.
So feeling very, very grateful.
Awesome. You ready to jump into our little agenda?
Of course. I was born ready.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm enjoying. I'm also grateful for the outlines that we're putting together for our shows now.
I'm grateful for the outlines you're putting together now.
Well, you know, we're brainstorming ideas and putting some outlines together. And I especially enjoyed how we took the show the last few episodes. I know we weren't here live in person for the last episode. I think Ace did a fabulous job tapping a brilliant episode from the past, if I do say so myself. And before that, kind of opening up the conversation to bonds and to a topic that has not been very in vogue for a very long time. That was a lot of fun to bring back an oldie but a goodie.
Well, what's been funner
Yeah.
has been the conversations that I've had with clients in the last however many weeks that was
Well, let's hot wash.
on
Do tell.
the very subject of bonds.
Yeah, do
I
tell.
have had more conversation about buying municipal bonds for high net worth clients with high income in the last 3 weeks than I have in the last 15 years combined.
Wow.
Now, would I like to take a little bit of credit for it that it's coming from our bond episode? Yeah, sure I would.
Well, I think a few people have shared
But
with you.
I think there's a few people talking about bonds other than just you and me.
There are?
And what I am excited about is that it piqued their interest. And as we said on the show, there's a whole almost generation of investors that really know zippity doo-dah about bonds. But after our deep dive into the subject, it prompted some really good conversation.
That's awesome. Well, on the topic of zippity doo-dah, perhaps a bit controversial, but I'm going to suggest that even though stock investing has been quite the in vogue thing for a long time now, I'd argue that most people don't know zippity doo-dah about stock investing either.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
I mean, maybe a little bit.
Well, we were forced into learning something about it post 2008 because it was the only asset class that you were motivated to, whether it was directly or indirectly from our friends in the government. It was the only asset class you could really get excited about
Sure.
because cash paid nothing, bonds paid nothing, real estate was in the tank, commodities had already moved up post '08. So you're forced to either own a business or own stock,
Right.
in public stock.
Yeah. I guess what would you say most people's experience with owning stock, or what coming out of like the .com bubble and that whole race into 2000, how did most people see owning stock? And this is kind of what I mean about zippity doo-dah about investing in stock.
Well, if we're going to put a marker in the sand, before 2000, making money with stocks was easy.
It sure was.
I was day trading Network Appliance and Yahoo on a daily basis in 99 and 2000, making a month's worth of income in a day. It was easy until it wasn't.
There you go. Well, I think there's more to be said about that because the idea of investing in stock has evolved over a long period of time, and there's a lot to peel back. And I think in the spirit of understanding more about the bond market, it would make some sense for us to kind of slow down and spend some time in the stock market a little bit and help our tribe understand a little bit more about stock, who buys stock, the different types of stock investors. Maybe we could identify with the different types of stock investors, maybe different ways that you can buy stock. I think there's a lot we could unpack there.
Let's go.
Well, you started talking about what were the stocks that you were...
Yahoo and Network Appliance.
Oh, those were your favorites?
Oh, and in terms of trading, yeah. I know this gets right into our curriculum for today. It gets into the gambler or the speculator, right?
Yeah.
Where somebody's trying to make money faster than perhaps they can make it in their day job, and that we've seen that here recently in 2024. And if you go back a couple years with what they call the Magnificent Seven, I know we're getting way off into individual stock stuff, but there's people that want to make money quickly with stocks. There's people that want to make money over a long period of time with stocks, and we'll have names for these people. And then there's people like you and me.
We have gamblers, the gambler, we have the professional investor, and we have the risk manager. Those are the three who's who buy stock. And, you've teed up who the gambler is. And I think not to judge because it just is what it is. You and I have both played that role. We've both enjoyed playing that role. I mean, the gambler in stocks, back in my A.G. Edwards days, we were hunters. That's what we did. We were stockbrokers. And our job was to hunt huge winners for my very small, young, hungry, aggressive client base.
Right.
Our favorite was a company called Zytel. Does that name ring a bell at all?
Oh, that does sound remarkably familiar.
We seemed to love the pink sheets in my office back in the day. And Zytel was one of those companies that it wasn't a huge winner, but it had this trading range between $17 and $22 a share.
Where you could just ping-pong.
It ping-ponged back and forth, and we just got so good.
Mine was Pacificare.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. It was almost an identical trading range, and you could...
Back and forth.
Oh, dear. May God bless me with another one of those.
Well, what I'm seeing now more and more is this idea of the gambler because of this Magnificent Seven phenomenon you talk about, right? The next NVIDIA, the next Tesla, the next crypto opportunity. The people who look at the stock market as an opportunity to hit the next run, to get rich as quickly as they can, because their primary MO is to make as much money with their money as they possibly can, as quickly as they can. Personally, I think you're better off like taking that money that you would do that with, buy yourself an airplane ticket, go to Las Vegas, check into a very nice suite at the Wynn or the Encore, Go downstairs, play a little bit of blackjack, play a little bit of roulette, play a little bit of...
Yeah, but that doesn't scratch everybody's itch.
Well, the nice thing about that, though, is when you lose, you get comps if you spend enough money.
Sure, when you lose in the stock market, you get comps.
You do?
Yeah.
What kind of comps do you
It's called
get?
unrealized losses that carry forward indefinitely.
Or realized losses.
Either way. Yeah.
Oh, I guess I never thought of that way. Oh, that's good.
Those are comps. Yeah, stick with me.
Yeah, but I don't know. Carry forward losses, I guess, economically are really smart, but I sure like that free dinner every once in a while. Yeah.
I get it. Now, you're kind of painting a picture that these stock people are mutually exclusive.
What do you mean?
That you can't wear all three hats. I kind of wear personally, I kind of wear all three hats.
Well,
There's stocks I like to trade, there's stocks I like to hold, and then there's my risk management piece to my portfolio.
yeah, when I'm looking at the different personas of people, that's not where I'm going with it.
Okay.
Because when I think of the gambler, it's a mindset. Like you've always said, the first person who walks in our office that we're going to say absolutely no thank you to, shake hands and see you later, is the person who sits down and the first two questions out of their mouth is, what are your fees and how much are you going to make me? There's a mindset to the gambler, and it's an overall mindset. When we're I'm looking just exclusively at the stock piece.
Sure.
Right?
I get it.
Then when we look at the second person, the professional investor, this is your Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger type. This is somebody who literally has made it their profession to do research on companies and their balance sheets.
Right.
And that's all they do. They're a professional investor. So their goal is to make more money with their money, but it's become their full-time vocation in doing that.
And they're going to hold it indefinitely.
Absolutely. Well, if you think about the professional investor as career investors, if it's what they do, they've made
It's their business.
It's their business. It's absolutely their business. So they often have this luxury of timelessness where they can just hold it forever, right? I mean, like Warren Buffett, he never needs to cash in chunks of his stock portfolio to fund his retirement income because he's always sitting on a big old pile of cash.
He is?
Yeah, generally.
Personally?
Well, Berkshire Hathaway, his stock portfolio.
Right. But Berkshire Hathaway, he can't live off of cash in Berkshire Hathaway.
I would imagine he could live off the nice,
He's
modest
paid
income they pay him.
a salary
Right.
of $100,000.
Right. But in effect, Berkshire Hathaway has become the company he's created, but that company is his stock portfolio. That's what he's built. And he's such a successful professional investor that he's had to hire a whole bunch of people to help him manage this portfolio of stock.
Oh, lots of companies.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and then we have that third person, the risk manager, which again, I think is a mindset that's more like you and us. And it's not to say that you and I can't have a little of the professional investor, a little of the gambler at times, but the mindset of the risk manager.
That's the lens by which you and I see things.
Well,
Right. I mean,
yeah.
I had a client we were both in the meeting, and they had no concept of the amount of risk that they were taking with their overall portfolio. And the majority of his net worth is tied up in a privately held company, of which he is just a shareholder. He is not the CEO or the president, or he has no executive leadership positions. He is a foot soldier in the Army, and a damn good one. But the risk that they take when all of your net worth is tied up in your company stock is pretty significant. And looking at the rest of their portfolio, it just became a really eye-opening conversation for them to realize that, well, we should probably counterbalance some of the risks that we take with our company stock with the rest of the portfolio. And I mean, I could tell you stories going back to, here's a throwback, Sun Microsystems.
Oh, I remember that.
Or Yahoo as an example,
Sure.
where they had just gobs and gobs and gobs of company stock, right? Options, in the money options, until they weren't in 2001 or 2. We view the whole concept around that kind of mindset as managing the risk that you're taking in other areas.
That's part of it for sure. Absolutely. When I talk about the risk manager, what I'm thinking about is our tribe of entrepreneurs. I'm thinking about the people you and I interact with, the people who show up most of the time are people who are exquisite wealth creators. They're really, really good at making wealth. They create it within their own business. They create it by investing in themselves and getting out into the world and adding incredible value.
Yeah, creating value
to
and
their
adding
tribe,
value.
and they get paid incredible sums of money of doing that. What that risk manager, what that entrepreneur has come to realize and come to invest in stock in is because they recognize that the number one risk to the wealth that they create is inflation.
Do they?
I think they come to realize that, absolutely. If they spend time with you and me,
That's how they do.
that's my point.
They don't come to that on their own, because everybody that we share that message with is like, what do you mean inflation?
But that's why they ultimately do it.
Have to.
That's the whole point. And that's why this whole concept of the risk manager in the stock market, it's to all combat that great risk that they have when they go out and create all this money and they go stuff it in a bank account and wake up 20 years from now and it's worth half as much as what it was when they made it.
Right.
Or they go out and they gamble with it. They take more risk with the money that they've created
Unknowingly
and needlessly, right? Especially if they're already exquisite wealth creators.
Well, you and I advocate that it's needless risk because they're already taking extraordinary risk in their day job,
yes.
right? Let's pick on Enron, right? If you were a whatever level executive employee at Enron, their culture back in the day was all about investing in the Enron stock inside your 401k. Your bonus was in Enron options. Your paycheck was from a Enron bank account. And so you were taking extraordinary amounts of risk, putting all of your net worth in a publicly traded company called Enron, which, again, not to keep banging this analogy into the ground, it was great until it wasn't. So you and I have a passion for helping clients open their eyes to this concept of risk and the risk manager. But I think it's something that we have to lead people to that they don't naturally come to on their own. But when it's one of those things they can't unsee once they've seen it.
Right. Well, brother, this is all about creating awareness. What we are trying to help people do here is just kind of open their eyes up to what is the motive behind why you're investing in stock.
Yeah.
And my observation after running around this business for almost 30 years, spending more than half of that calling on people like you and me, other financial advisors, and meeting thousands and thousands and thousands of their clients, it's hard not to see that these three distinct mindsets of why people would be an investor in stock: the gambler, the professional investor, and the risk manager, and the very different approaches to buying stock. And I think that's important for our tribe, if they are stock investors or hoping to become stock investors one day, is to be able to differentiate. What is my motive? What am I trying to accomplish? What do I hope is my desired outcome by investing in stock? Am I trying to hit a home run? Am I trying to replace lost savings that because I didn't spend my 40s and 50s piling away a bunch of money in my highest earning years, now all of a sudden I'm playing catch up?
Oh, yeah.
So I have to be the gambler. I don't have a choice. Am I somebody who, I've got a day job, but I really love the investing game. And I do it because I'm good at it. And boy, I like the idea of building equity and building ownership in wonderfully run organizations over long periods of time. And I'm willing to put in the effort to get good at it. Or am I somebody who is really good at creating wealth myself and need some help protecting that wealth because I don't know what I'm doing as far as how to do that? And I don't realize that inflation is my greatest risk.
Right.
And that something like owning stock could be one of the most efficient ways to be able to outpace inflation and make sure that my purchasing power over time keeps up with my lifestyle. It's just mindset differences.
Yeah.
And I think
I think if people are listening, if our community is listening, they're naturally going to be in their own head going, which am I? Which one of these resonates with me? Right.
Or which one do I want to be, or which one have I been over time? Because
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You and I have had all three mindsets at different times in our lives.
I would say I still do. I still have stocks where I'm a gambler. I still have stocks I'm going to own for a very long time. And then the bulk of what I try to do is manage my risk. Mm-hmm. Because I, too, like our clients, own a business that I'm taking all my risk with, right? It's my paycheck. It's my net worth. It's everything. So I have to counterbalance that risk.
Yeah. And one of the things that I know has been cool to watch as our industry has evolved is there are now multiple different ways that you can buy stock.
Oh, I can buy it on my phone.
places you can buy stock, as well as types of stock that you can buy. All sorts of different ways you could buy stock. You could buy individual stock. You could buy mutual funds. You could buy ETFs.
A what?
These are all different ways you can buy stock.
Okay, so hang on a second here. We've talked about these three types of stock investors.
Yeah.
But we haven't even really picked apart what is a stock.
Oh, I guess I was assuming everybody would have already known that already. But in the spirit of what we do here,
Let's pick it apart.
okay.
So what's a stock?
Well, I'm
Because
glad
we might have younger listeners that
Yeah.
have never done this before.
True, very true. And I'm glad you slowed it down and asked that, because not only do we want to understand what a stock is, but like the three different ways you can buy it also defines what it is,
Totally.
right? Because you can buy individual stock, which we're going to define here, but you can also buy these things called mutual funds, which have a bunch of stock in them. You can also buy these things called exchange traded funds, ETFs, which also have a bunch of stock in them. And I think it's important that we describe these three different kinds of stock, right? So individual
Different
stock.
ways to buy stock.
different ways to
But
own
what
it.
the heck is a stock?
Okay. A stock is one unit of ownership in a big publicly traded company. Not necessarily big, but in a publicly owned company. One share of stock equals one unit of ownership.
That you and I can invest in. I
Correct.
mean, in terms of
We can buy it.
we can go buy it somewhere.
We can take our money and we can go to a stock exchange, which is like a market, like a grocery store. And this grocery store, this exchange, lines up people who already own shares of stock with people who want to buy those shares of stock. And these exchanges and markets create a marketplace for buying and selling shares of ownership of, I don't know, approximately 4,000 publicly owned companies here in the United States. Is that the number?
Oh, it's a big number.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer, but it's a big number.
It's a lot, for sure.
So it's a way for me to take my hard-earned money and invest it in a business that has decided to not remain private, but to actually be a publicly traded company. What I mean, if we're going there, what does that mean?
Well, okay, so
I know you just kind of described it, but
let's start at the ground floor. Let's look at our company, Gebhardt Group. Gebhardt Group has the company. The value of the company is represented through a certain number of outstanding shares. You own a bunch of them. I own a bunch of them. We're the only two people that own shares in Gebhardt Group.
can anybody else buy them?
Not unless you and I let them.
Thank you.
You and I have a privately owned company, and we get the decision if we want to sell our shares to anybody else. If you and I ever want to grow Gebhardt Group, expand Gebhardt Group, there are generally two ways to do it. We can borrow money, or we can sell ownership in our company, which if we sell shares of our company to other people, that brings in a whole bunch of money that you and I could use to expand our business.
So this is the concept of an initial public offering, or some people might have heard of an IPO,
Right.
where the company goes from being private to now being public.
Right. You and I want to turn our company into the next
Schwab.
Charles Schwab, exactly. We're now going to be Jim Gebhardt, the next Charles Schwab.
Sure.
Right? One way we would do that is by bringing other owners into the company, where you and I would own significantly less of the company, but it has the potential to become a significantly larger company.
Still private in this case.
Correct.
Yeah.
Until we decide that we want to invite the public, where you and I now no longer have control over who buys and sells the stock. It's now out on the exchange. We take a bunch of our shares, we make them available to the public. It's called the float. It's what we float to the public. We generally use a big investment bank to help value what that's worth.
Yep.
And then that investment bank goes out to the public and sells these shares to the public through an initial public offering. And once those shares are sold to the public, and all these owners now own shares of Gebhardt Group, the future Charles Schwab, if you want to sell your ownership, you do it through the exchange, and you find other people who want to buy it from you.
And the other interesting thing about that is that it is valued every second of every day the market is open.
Is it really valued, or is it priced?
Oh, okay, yeah. It's priced, meaning you know the value of your stock every second of every day the market is open.
Yes, absolutely.
And the market is only open certain periods of time, right?
Yes.
Whereas a grocery store might be open 24 hours a day. The New York Stock Exchange is not. There are set windows when it's open. Maybe a lot of people know that, but maybe younger investors don't.
Well, traders need to go buy their groceries at the 24-hour grocery store and go home and have dinner and cook food.
Right, and then get ready to trade again.
Exactly. Dark 30 the next day.
So you can own a small slice of a business
Yes.
that is publicly traded.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes. That's the basics behind what an individual stock is. But there are other ways besides owning individual stock, because to own individual stock, there's a lot of work involved in doing that. And we'll might get into that. Yeah, we'll get there. There are other ways that you could also own stock, and some people have heard of these things. They're called mutual funds. You know anything about mutual funds?
One or two.
Tell me what you know about mutual funds.
Well, that was a way, because if you think about what we just described in terms of owning an individual share or shares in one company,
Yeah.
no different than our open with the amount of risk that you're taking with your employer. Or if I'm putting all of my money in one stock,
Yeah.
right, that's putting all my eggs in one basket. Mom and Dad said, don't do that,
No.
right? So mutual funds were created way back in the 30s, the 1930s, for the purpose of helping people diversify. So I could take my $100 or my $1,000 and buy a basket of stocks that might have 100 stocks in the portfolio that is now managed by a company that this is what they do, going back to the professional investor mindset.
Right.
Now, this is a business.
It's a whole company of professional
It's a
investors.
whole company that's what they do, is they figure out, of the 100 stocks we're going to own in this mutual fund, which do they perceive as the best?
Right.
That was a pretty small industry, really, until the mid 80s, late 80s. It was big when we already got into business.
What kicked it off was ERISA. That was what, thank you. The Employee Retirement Income Security Act of 1974.
Very good. Ding, 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 ding.
Yay, I'm paying attention in my studies. That act, which is, oh boy, we could get into lots of conspiracies here, but I'm not going to today. That was the act that officially transferred the responsibility of providing for retirement from the shoulders of the companies via pensions to the shoulders of the individual investor via the 401k.
So now we need something to help those people diversify better.
Correct. Because they don't have the time, they don't have the capacity, they don't have the resources.
Or perhaps the interest.
Exactly. To go out and do the research to find 6 or 8 or 10 or 12 individual stocks. So the invention of this 401k kicked off a frenzy in Boston and New York, where these professional investment companies got together and built these big portfolios of stock and bonds.
So it was a way to be able to be,
plans.
It was the way to be better diversified.
Yes.
In a professionally managed basket of stocks and bonds. We won't go there, but we'll just stay at stocks.
Stock. Yeah, we did bonds last time.
For the early part of your career and my career, that's where most of my clients invested their money, was in mutual funds.
Well, thank you, because I worked for those companies.
Exactly.
I worked for the product manufacturers, the mutual fund manufacturer. I worked for 2 of them, and my job was to go call on financial advisors and
tell me why.
Pin them down to the floor, twist their arm, and make them sell my mutual funds to their clients
versus Joe Zotz.
Yeah, versus Joe Zotz mutual funds.
Right.
That was a fun job. Now, look, there's trade-offs. I mean, I think we just, without saying benefits, shared some of the benefits of the mutual fund and why that helped people, especially back in the 70s and 80s and 90s with the start of figuring out our own retirement, the diversification effort. I don't have the time to do the research nor the capability or the interest. But there's a trade-off, too.
It kind of sounds a little too good to be true.
Well, it's not too good to be true. It's too good to be free.
Oh, okay.
Because if you were to buy individual stock, most custodian platforms that you can buy stock on,
what?
most of the places,
A custodian.
the companies,
That's the person that helps me clean up at night.
They do. And this is the company that not only helps you clean up at night, but they hold your stock during the day.
Ah.
They do both.
Not under the mattress?
No. So companies like Charles Schwab, Fidelity, Vanguard, E-Trade, these are all custodians, companies that could serve as a custodian for you to purchase, whether it's individual shares of stock, mutual funds, or we're going to talk in a minute about ETFs. Most of those custodians have platforms that charge 0 transaction fees to buy individual stock.
Now they do.
Now they do. They didn't always.
They didn't always. That's been coming down and down and down and down for a long time.
Well, that's why you and I aren't stockbrokers anymore.
Right.
One of the reasons that exactly. I mean, those Those used to be kind of commission-based platforms that now are no-fee platforms in most cases. Mutual funds are a little different, on the other hand. There are generally some expenses to owning mutual funds. That's kind of the trade-off, is that it's a little more expensive. Again, you're hiring professionals. You're hiring you're hiring someone to do something for you rather than you doing it yourself. So that's going to come with some expense. It's going to come with cost, both a cost internally in the mutual fund as well as
perhaps a transaction cost.
Yeah, we've seen some transaction costs for sure. Did we beat the mutual funds up enough?
Well, they've been a very, very useful tool for a generation of investors, right?
But they've
a
changed.
good 25, 30 years worth of investing
Sure.
was principally the way to diversify was to be able to, use mutual funds of different flavors to accomplish risk management and diversification.
Sure.
And then came along the evolution of the,
Exchange traded fund.
okay, what's that?
Great question. That is almost like the mutual fund of the 21st century. But what it does is so something we didn't explain fully on the mutual fund is how it operates that I think would help us also understand a little bit more about the ETF. We talked about the stocks inside of the mutual fund that the manager is investing and buying for us. But what's different about the mutual fund is if I want to buy shares of the mutual fund, can I buy it like I can buy stock throughout the day?
No, sir.
No, I can buy it once at the end of the day. So
You can place the order anytime you like
sure, but
during the market hours.
sure, but when do you get your shares?
You find out what the price of it is after the market's closed.
Right.
And let me just tell you, that was not so fun in 2008 and 9. Because whether you were buying or selling, you had no idea what the price was going to be until after the market closed. And if you were to go back and watch the tape of many of the worst days in the 08-09 global financial crisis, the market wet the bed in the last hour to somewhere between last hour and 20 minutes.
Sure. It was okay most of the day until the last
It
hour.
was okay
and
at 8
tanked.
o'clock in the morning when I entered the order.
Sure.
And then down it went.
Well, that's what I think.
No guts.
That's what I think pushed the invention of the ETF.
Oh, yeah.
Because I remember back in the mutual fund day, I mean, what mutual fund companies do, and these still exist today, and there are still some good ones out there, and you and I even use them more on the bond side of things.
Yes.
But they're still there. The challenge is that they price all of the individual stocks within the fund at the end of the day and then give you what's called the net asset value of the entire mutual fund.
Mm-hmm.
So the net asset value divided by your number of shares gives you what your piece of the pie is worth. And that once a day thing in 08 was awful.
That was I won't do that again.
Right. So here comes something called an exchange traded fund, which kind of
like
takes...
it's the hybrid. It's like the best
is.
of both.
It's the best of individual stocks and the best of mutual funds, right? Because you get the diversification of mutual funds, right? It's a basket of stocks generally that track a specific index, but they close the basket of stocks and take those shares and trade them on the stock exchange like individual stocks. So instead of buying the shares from the mutual fund company and then redeeming my shares with the mutual fund company at the end of the day, an exchange traded fund, once those exchange traded shares were initially launched, they then went and sat on the exchange and they traded on the exchange between investors. It took the middleman of the mutual fund company out of the mix.
And so I as the owner,
You must have loved those when they came out.
They were delicious. The exchange traded fund is therefore priced every moment of every day like a stock. So I get to know exactly what it is at the time I'm entering the order, and I will know the execution of the prices almost instantaneously. I get the diversification of the mutual fund. But then on top of that, this is a very broad generalization, is the cost of owning the exchange traded fund is significantly less than owning a mutual fund.
Because it's not actively traded like the mutual fund, right?
Correct.
It's a fixed basket.
It generally is a much more passive or a fixed basket of stocks.
Okay. Well, that makes a ton of sense. So, I mean, it sounds like kind of bottom line, there are a few different ways that one can go about buying stock. Buying the individual stock seems like the most cost-effective way, but it's definitely the most time-consuming and probably assumes the most risk. Yes?
I would agree.
Mutual funds,
Not that the mutual funds and the exchange traded funds aren't without risk.
sure. But on a relative basis.
Yeah, on the spectrum of risk,
Yeah.
if we're going to take $1,000 and we're going to invest it in one stock or one exchange-traded fund or one mutual fund,
Right.
you're taking the most amount of stock. That going back to your Vegas analogy, you might as well, if you're going to just put it on one stock,
Right.
you might as well go to Vegas and put it on red.
Right. Because those comps will be better than the tax losses.
Absolutely.
I think.
Like you said, you get a meal.
Exactly. So mutual funds then would be a less aggressive way to own stock, a little less, but probably the most expensive way to do it because you're completely outsourcing all of the work to somebody else.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And there's
then-
certainly mutual funds today that are super duper aggressive, right? I mean, I don't mean to add nuance to this, but in the spectrum of mutual funds, you can have paint dry,
Sure.
snoozer, or you could have some super aggressive left lane 120 mile an hour mutual fund. So I
Sure.
think to open everybody's eyes to that, the vehicle that we're talking about is a mutual fund, and that comes with added costs, but you're outsourcing the management,
Right.
right?
The research,
All of it, the
getting on the
execution.
plane and spending time with
Yeah.
companies and doing
Yeah.
the due diligence.
Kicking the
and
tires, all that.
the trading, being able to buy and sell at certain prices, that's
Yeah.
all being done by somebody else. Well, and then, I mean, it sounds like between all of them, the ETF, you get it all. You get the diversification, you get a little lower cost, you get the fact that it trades all day and I could sell it at any time.
It's our favorite.
It's our favorite way to do it, for sure.
Yeah.
I think we can go a little deeper with this conversation.
Oh,
So we
no doubt.
We've kind of talked about the different mindsets. We've even talked about the different investors, the different types of investors, and the different ways that we can go about buying stock and get our money in stock. I think it would make sense that since buying individual stock assumes the most risk, that it would probably make some sense to help our tribe with the step-by-step of if you are going to go out and try to build a stock portfolio, how might one start doing that?
Well, and where I think this is particularly helpful is, at least in my experiences, with newer investors, right? Almost brand new investors. Because my favorite recommendation to a new investor, doesn't really matter the age, but somebody that's never owned stocks before,
Sure.
they're generally starting with a small amount of money.
Right.
Because this is new.
Right.
And as you walk through the methodology here of buying individual stocks, I am always advocating that they buy individual stocks because it's how they're going to get their hands dirty versus some nebulous exchange traded fund that's just on the S&P 500 index.
Right.
I love it
When you're new, absolutely.
when new investors go look at what we're about to describe here as a means of selecting a handful of companies that they're going to buy.
This whole process, these steps that we're going to go through kind of came from you and me sitting down with some of the growing children of our clients.
Yep.
And helping them get started because they got graduation money, bar mitzvah money, wedding money, and they had a little sum of money that they wanted to learn how to become an investor.
Well,
And this is the way to start.
school didn't teach them how to do that?
Unfortunately not. But hey, good news. I think we're up to 22 states now that have officially
Adopted?
adopted into law basic financial literacy requirements to graduate high school.
So
How
we're
about that?
almost halfway there.
Well, I mean, how many years ago did we start banging the drum and demanding that it would happen when Rhode Island was the first state?
We're getting there.
We just keep talking, and before we know it, 51 states will have it done.
That would be fabulous.
Right.
We will celebrate appropriately.
Absolutely.
Take us through this. Take us through the process of how you could filter, because like you said, there's 4,000, 5,000. I mean, who the heck
There's
knows,
a whole
right?
bunch, right? How
There's
do we do
way too many.
Yeah.
right?
How do we do it?
How do you suggest somebody start this process?
Well, and can I add before we start the process?
No.
Besides, thank you, the young generation of people that will really benefit from this information. When you and I went back and talked about mindset a little bit, an adult who's been gambler mindset most of their life in the stock market and they're starting over, and they would like to start over with building a portfolio that can stand the test of time.
Oh,
versus,
they're not starting over because they lost it all.
well, I'm trying to be nice. We gambled and we lost and we're starting over and
Yeah.
we'd like to do it different this time, right? So that this applies to anybody who's looking to start fresh, right? With kind of a risk management mindset. First step is, I think, as easy as opening your refrigerator, opening your medicine cabinet, looking at the different brands in your bathroom, in your house,
In your driveway,
in your driveway, in your office.
on your desk,
anywhere that you have a product that you absolutely love. What food do you eat that you absolutely love?
Pizza.
Okay. What company makes your favorite pizza?
American Pizza Company?
Sure.
I don't know.
So go online and look and see who owns American Pizza Company, because if you can buy shares and own a piece of American Pizza Company, that might be where we start.
Right.
So first and foremost is to look at the different aspects of your life. What's the piece of technology in your pocket? Who makes the technology in your pocket? Who makes most of the technology in your home? And if you really take a moment to sit down and think about your favorite products and the companies who provide them, or your favorite services, you're a huge fan of the Costco, right? You love Costco, and you love when I go shopping in Costco, because
I most certainly do.
I am single-handedly supporting your equity in Costco, it feels like.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So brands
you love.
Businesses, services.
Start there.
Start there.
If we can come up with a list of 20 to 30 of these businesses that we are loyal to, products and services, we've got our start. Step one.
And that is really not a hard exercise if you spend 10 minutes walking around your house and looking.
Yes.
I love that refrigerator. Who makes that refrigerator? Or that TV?
Or I hate that refrigerator because it didn't last very long.
Right.
But I sure love the new one I have because it's lasted longer. Who makes that?
Right. Or what's in my driveway?
There's a reason why I suggest we start with a list of companies that you have a personal connection with.
Okay. What's that?
Well, it keeps you interested, right? These are companies that you have a heart connection with, not just a financial and mind connection with. You care because you like what they do. So it's going to keep you a little bit more engaged, I think, longer term in the process.
Okay.
You're just going to be more interested, genuinely interested in companies you care about.
Okay.
So once we have this list, that's step one. 20 to 30 companies, that's probably a lot. But just because you like them doesn't also necessarily mean they're a good investment or something that you should own.
Well, let's pick on a company called Under Armour.
You love their products.
I love their products. But as an investment, it's horrible.
Oh, do tell.
Oh, it's been a terrible stock for a long time. And you keep wondering, you're like,
why?
I don't understand.
Yeah, why?
They make good products.
Okay.
They represent good value in the marketplace. But what is it about the stock that is somehow out of favor is the way we refer to it, because there are times when stocks do very, very, very well. There's other times where they're completely out of favor, right? It's kind of like my 4 kids. There are times when, I love one or two of them more than I love the rest of them. Right?
Of course. That's temporary, of course.
And as it is with stocks.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We could tell stories of companies like Xerox and Kodak.
Sure.
That were General Electric, right? That were darlings at the time.
Phenomenal companies, incredibly
profitable. Their products were ubiquitous. I mean, when you went to the copy machine, did you say you were going to make a Xerox, or how about the Kleenex?
I did.
Did you use a Kleenex today, or
I'd blow my
a
nose
tissue?
with a Kleenex on the way to the Xerox.
Right?
Yeah.
So these were ubiquitous brands that existed, but made terrible business decisions over time.
Well, this is, I think, where some of the next steps come into this process where, okay, so we've got 20 to 30 names, and we got to start narrowing that down, because I think if you're going to just get started with rebuilding a stock portfolio, we're finishing somewhere in the 5 to 7 stock range. Ultimately, that's where we want to start. That's what we want to get to, is a nice tight list of about 5 to 7 companies. So we start with this kind of affinity. I love these 20 to 30 companies. And then the next narrowing it down step is evaluating what I've come to see as a servant leadership culture. What does that mean?
Right. I love these concepts. This is meaty.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We're now into the heavy lifting.
Yeah. How does a company, so of these 20 or 30 companies that I love their products or services, now I got to get into how these companies manage themselves, how they operate as organizations. And before we even get close to the financials, to whether they're profitable, whether they make money, there are things that are going to translate to more sustainable profits over time. And I think that's built into this idea of having a servant leadership culture within the organization. There was a book, when did I read this? Probably back in the 90s or early 2000s. James Autry who was an executive at Starbucks, wrote a book called The Servant Leader. He did it with Howard Bahar, Howard Schultz, both people at Starbucks that kind of took it from small coffee shop into big, global, ginormous.
Everywhere.
We're going to make this the third most important place in your life after home and work. And the way they did that was by establishing themselves as leaders within the organizations whose sole purpose was to be there for their employees to be successful. Almost like snowplows. Like their job was to clear away the debris so that their employees, their key stakeholders, could do their job, could make the customer experience the best customer experience possible. And when push comes to shove, willing to lay their job down for the sake of their employees. Selflessness.
This sounds absolutely exquisite. How do I assess that?
You can do it a couple different ways. First, company website. If you go on the company website, you're going to get a sense that they have a servant leader culture because they're going to talk about it. A company that has the servant leader approach where, in my little opinion, they've prioritized stakeholders properly. What do I mean by stakeholders? The people who benefit from or suffer loss from the success or failure of the company.
Okay.
Right? The people who work there, the customers who shop there, and the shareholders who own it. Right? Those are our stakeholders.
Sure.
And when you prioritize those stakeholders, when you put shareholders first, I think you're setting yourself up to lose. We've seen examples of companies that when times get tough, the first thing they do is they lay off 20,000 people. We saw airlines do that back in 2008. We saw banks do that, right? Where the first thing they do to protect shareholders is go lay off a bunch of employees.
Tesla just laid off like 14,000 people.
Which is why I will never own that stock.
Oh, okay.
Personally,
All right.
I won't. When you look at companies that prioritize that employee first, like a Starbucks, like Southwest Airlines. You ever flown Southwest Airlines?
I love Southwest
Have
Airlines.
you ever seen a Southwest Airlines
LUV.
employee in a bad mood?
Not very often. I've seen it, but not very
Not
often.
very often.
Not very often. Relative to lots of other places, no,
Lots of other airlines?
They win.
Absolutely. And that's because for many, many years, and not as much today as they used to, Southwest Airlines was one of those companies that put the employee first, the customer second, and the shareholder third. Because the idea behind that is if the employee comes first, if we make that our most important client,
What happens?
they're going to enjoy their day. They're going to show up to work and feel like they own a piece of this.
And then what happens?
Well, the customers are going to see it, and the customers are going to have a pretty good feeling, and
And then what happens?
they might go tell other people that they want to be customers of this place
And they repeat as customers.
over and over and over. And then guess what happens?
The stock goes up.
The stock goes up and shareholders make money. Everybody's happy. Win, win, win.
I know we're a little off script here, but let's reverse that.
Okay.
And let's take it through we're going to maximize this place to take care of the shareholder.
Ooh.
So we're going to squeeze every nickel so that this place is just making money.
Well, that makes me feel like that movie Major League, which is a total fictional spiff from the 90s on the Cleveland Indians.
Okay.
When the owner of the team wanted to squeeze as much juice out of it and make it so uncomfortable to play baseball in Cleveland that Major League Baseball would approve their move to Miami. And she just squeezed everything out of the team and made it all about profitability.
Okay.
They were on buses going to games. It was miserable. Nobody wanted to play there.
So if you were a shareholder of that baseball team, you loved it because you were making money hand over fist in terms of
Well, profits were going up.
profits were going up.
Revenues, not necessarily, but profits were going up.
But the employees, quote unquote, the baseball players and the rest of the team were miserable.
Miserable, not playing great baseball. And then when you looked in the stands, there was nobody there. I mean, let's look at what's going on right now with the Oakland A's.
Who?
There's still a baseball team in Oakland.
There is?
Even though when you put it on television, there's nobody in the stands spending any money in this baseball
I
park.
think they need to do like the Zoom filter where they just kind of fog out the
the blur.
the blur. Thank
yeah,
you.
Zoom blur.
They should do that with Oakland baseball.
John Fisher is a great example of an owner of a baseball team who only cares about one thing and one thing only. My gratitude for baseball does not extend to this fella because he's made it only about profit and not about the people or the participants or the other stakeholders. It's purely about himself, and that sucks because everybody else gets hurt. So nobody shows up. Nobody's putting money into it. The players aren't happy. The fans aren't happy.
Doesn't sound like a business I want to own
Doesn't sound like a business I want to own.
or support.
No.
Hey y'all, Ace here. Man, the guys are doing a great job getting the stock explanation out. I mean, with servant leadership and the example of a baseball team that's kind of the contrary, the value it equates to in the stock, that's a lot of information. It seemed like a great place to take a break before the guys get into the details of how to assess the stocks that you've picked. That'll be coming up in the next episode.
If you like what you heard, leave us a review and be sure to subscribe. And check out our website, yourfinancialsobriety.com. Thanks again for listening today. Here to help you find more clarity, confidence, and capability along your journey into financial sobriety. I'm Matthew Grishman.
And I'm Jim Gebhardt.
Be intentional with your money.
Jim Gebhardt is a registered representative of and securities offered through Brokers International Financial Services, LLC, member SIPC. Jim Gebhardt and Matthew Grishman are investment advisor representatives of Gebhardt Group Incorporated, a registered investment advisor. Brokers International Financial Services, LLC, and Gebhardt Group Incorporated are not affiliated. The opinions in this podcast are for informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or investment recommendations. To determine which investments or financial advice may be appropriate for you, consult a financial advisor prior to investing. Any reference to market performance is based on historical information, and there is no expressed or implied guarantee of future performance. Opinions expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect those of Brokers International Financial Services, LLC. The topics discussed and opinions given are not intended to address the specific needs of any listener. Gebhardt Group Incorporated does not offer legal or tax advice. Listeners are encouraged to discuss their financial needs with the appropriate professional regarding your individual circumstance.
Mutual funds and exchange-traded funds, ETFs, are sold by prospectus. Please consider the investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses carefully before investing. The prospectus, which contains this and other information about the investment company, can be obtained from the fund company or your financial professional. Be sure to read the prospectus carefully before deciding whether to invest. Fixed annuities are long-term insurance contracts, and there is a surrender charge imposed generally during the first 5 to 7 years that you own the annuity contract. Withdrawals prior to age 59.5 may result in a 10% IRS tax penalty in addition to any ordinary income tax. Any guarantees of the annuity are backed by the financial strength of the underlying insurance company.